Hello and welcome to the webinar Beyond the Physical. On the screen we have our expectations for today. If you can see them in the yellow there, it sort of says, about we will handle the microphones and cameras, but if you can also be aware that we are recording this workshop to hopefully share at a later date. And also if we could please be respectful and use professional language in the chat box that we will be opening in a moment. With regards to the chat box, it's great to see so many of you. I think we have over 600 people who had logged in at the start. And if we just don't use it for saying hello, because we may lose some of the questions we want to pose. Also, if you can see in your chat box, there is a link. And we would really appreciate it if you could click on that link, if you haven't already done so, in the landing room, or scan the code so that we can collect some data to ensure that all the future webinar series we plan to deliver are purposeful and bespoke for your needs in the teaching workforce. And I'll just give you a few minutes to make sure that you've got time to fill in those forms. We will start in a minute or two. I can just see at the moment there are loads of responses coming in as a lot of you are completing the forms. So thanks in advance for taking the time to do this. We really appreciate it. And it makes our job a lot easier in making sure that all the resources and discussion topics we plan in the future are catered for you, so that you can have the best support we can give you in delivering high quality PE.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the short delay, and thank you for your patience. We're just making sure that everyone's getting in okay. I think we had quite a few in the waiting room, but hopefully you've made it in. Thank you for completing the form on the sign-up page. Firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar. This is our first webinar for our new hot topic, which is fit for the new future. You will see up on the slide, you've got the series of webinars that are coming up. On the left-hand side are the dates and the times of each webinar. Please keep an eye out on Twitter, which is @FAPE Unit, for the latest information. You'll have seen today that this webinar was really really popular. We've had easily over 1,000 sign-ups. Unfortunately, that was our capacity. So going forward, we're looking at different alternatives to cater for really high numbers. But firstly, thank you for signing up and showing your interest. So just a little bit about today's webinar. It's going to last for about an hour. We're going to be talking through various slides. We want to try and keep you as engaged as possible. So we're going to use some polls for you to answer throughout. There might be some questions and answers for you to provide. I think we're going to use the chat feature for that. We're going to see how that goes with so many attending. And also, we've got two guys who will introduce themselves in a while, Steve and Ryan, who are going to come in and start to discuss some of the questions that you're posing. The last thing I just want to let you know, this webinar is being recorded and we will look to share that in the future. So just a little bit about myself just to start. My name's Tom. It does say Thomas there, but that's only usually when I'm in trouble. I am a PE coordinator in Shropshire and Staffordshire, and I've previously worked as a primary school teacher across various year groups and across various schools. I'm very lucky today to have Sharon virtually working alongside me. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello, and thank you, Tom. Welcome, everybody. Yes, my name is Sharon Maxworthy, and I am the PE coordinator based in Sussex and Hampshire. I am a qualified PE teacher for 23 years. I still don't have any grey hairs, so you can do it. I've taught from EYFS right through to 19-year-olds in this country, in Wales, and also in a lot of African international countries where I've been part of a volunteer workforce sent over by the FA to try and upskill physical literacy in schools. And also joining me today, we're very lucky to have some other members of our FAP unit. And firstly, I'll let Ryan introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. And again, just to reiterate, thanks for joining us. It's amazing to have so many of you engaging in what we're doing, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to do that. I'm the PE coordinator for the FA up in the Northeast, so hello to all those who are joining us from that region today. And similar to Sharon, prior to joining the FA, I was a teacher for 10 years, and the majority of those of which were working in and with primary schools, so can hopefully relate to some of your experiences in terms of reception class taking 25 minutes to get changed, or whether it's not being able to find the box of bean bags when you're at the start of a lesson. So hopefully can relate to some of those experiences that you have. I'll be in the background with Steve today, answering some of your questions and answers, some of your questions and hopefully answering those. And hopefully as many as possible will be back next week, and I'll be presenting alongside one of our other PE coordinators, Paul Quinn. So enjoy the next 40 minutes, and I'll just let Steve introduce himself before we crack on.
Good afternoon, guys. So I'll keep this brief. Mine's obviously Steve Wade. I'm the regional manager for the East region of the PE unit, which essentially is everything around the Leeds, Yorkshire region, and down to Watford and across. So it's quite a large area. I'm based in Leeds, live in Leeds, and most of the people I work with in terms of universities and clubs are based around Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. So as Ryan said, I'm going to be in the background again, helping Ryan with the questions that you guys may be posing to us. We're going to try and get any sort of generic themes and talk about them at various stages throughout the webinar. Experience-wise, just before I move on, I was a teacher for 11 years. Ended up as a senior leader in a school. They covered a wide range of experiences. So again, like Sharon said, ranged from early years through to A level. So hopefully we can share some of that experience with you over the next, well, not just the next 4 weeks, but also beyond. So enjoy the webinar, guys, and any questions that chat box will open shortly and we'll monitor them. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So what I'm all going to ask for you now, you've all taken the time to navigate yourself through the registration process, and you've signed up for this webinar, Beyond the Physical. Can we take a look at this photograph? Who do you think is present there? Who's really in the moment? Who's really gaining from whatever they're watching? If we can try and be present like that lady who's been circled there, I know we may slightly have we may have some children crawling under our legs as we're trying to hone in on some professional development at the moment, or there may be a dog who decides that this is the time they want to play or start barking. But hopefully you'll be able to be present for the duration, and we'll try and make it as interactive as possible so that you can all take as much as possible from this session. So throughout the webinar, we hope to have as much interaction as possible, as already said, because this is a webinar about where we explore and share. A holistic, and to find out about what is the purpose of PE, what are the holistic benefits it can bring, and what is the primary PE national curriculum, and how does that fit within presenting children with the best possible experience they can hope to get. Since the lockdown, there has been a multitude of debate and social media about what PE is and what PE isn't. Is it simply physical instruction? Is it purely just children being dictated to from adults of when to stretch, when to jump, when to do the splits? I don't know. If you go back to the 1930s and the 40s, it used to be called physical training. And you might remember this if you've spoken to a great-grandfather or grandfather, or in my case, my mother. You know, that is what it was. It was called PT, not PE, because it was physical training. But I would like to think that we have now all moved on from that. Yes, lockdown has caused for us to have more of a focus on that sort of physical exercise in a small space. But let's not lose all that decision making and holistic development we've embedded in our PE curriculum.
Okay, so as promised, any moment now you may see a poll spring up on your screen. This poll will ask you, how many pages does the primary PE national curriculum consist of? So if you could take a moment to think about it and fill it out, and we'll start to see some of your answers flying in. Oh, brilliant. Absolutely flying in. Excellent. How many pages is that curriculum? Okay, so I think most of us now have answered, which is brilliant. Thank you very much for engaging in the first poll. So the answer will be revealed on the next slide. There we go. So well done if you answered 3 pages, although it is only just 3 pages. As you can see, I think with smaller font, it may just be 2. So over the next few slides, we're just going to start to unpick some of the information within here and really start to explore what the purpose of PE is. Okay, so this is just text which have been copied and pasted from the national curriculum and really focused upon the section right at the top, so the purpose of study. The first text I would like to draw your attention to is that PE should inspire all pupils to succeed and excel. PE should really encourage children that when they leave your lesson, they just want more. They've had a really positive experience. They're feeling high as kites. So there's a real buzz. And what is vital to that is the level of challenge within your lesson. So if it's too hard or too easy, then they might become disengaged and have a negative experience. So pitching at the right level, making sure everybody's challenged, and making sure they have a positive experience so they want to come back is really important. The second phrase I'm going to focus on, to become physically confident to support their health and fitness. PE plays a really important part in this. We need to make sure that PE helps foster a love in children and a love for movement. So as they leave us in primary school, they want to keep moving in whichever way they choose, and they understand that that's vital in order to live a healthy lifestyle. And lastly, to build character and embed values. And I think this is a really good opportunity to link in with your own school values that you work in. This is where we really start to look, sorry, Sharon. This is where we really start to look beyond the physical, and we start to embed and cement those school values in our PE lessons. So for example, it may be that your school wishes to develop independent learners. And this is something that you could focus on for a term. So how can you independently learn in each PE lesson? What does that look like? And how can you transfer that skill to other subject areas, but also life in general? It's going to be a key skill for as they grow older. Next slide, please, Sharon. So on this next slide, you'll see a diagram. And this is to show how positive PE experiences can really impact a child's future. On the first level, you'll see the curriculum time. So hopefully the children during curriculum time are really having a positive experience of PE. If so, then they may choose to take part in extracurricular activities. This may be that it's school sport. So it might just be your after school club, your football club, your basketball, netball, whichever it is, because that's something they really want to specialize in and they enjoy. That may not be for them. They may actually just want to take part in more physical activity. So this could be that a game that they played in your PE lesson, they can easily set up a break time and play with their friends. And that, again, that's their choice. It might be that your school has a school garden and they want to go and do a bit of gardening. But again, this is their choice. Then hopefully they've had a great experience at that level as well, and they want to pursue their love of movement further. So they might go and join a local sports club, again, in any sport. They might choose to play more active games on the iPad, where we're starting to combine technology and movement in one. They may invite friends round or have siblings so they can play backyard games and make up their own rules. And if you're really lucky, they may start to do some household chores, maybe a bit of hoovering or trying to throw their T-shirt in the wash bin. But you might have to be a good salesman to do that. But again, this is their choice. They've had a really positive experience of PE, and hopefully that's filtered through the diagram, and they can really start to choose how they want to move and enjoy movement.
And this is where you are really important as the teachers, because you are the ones that have the first contact with the children, whether it's in their reception class and you're lucky enough to have them right through your school, or whether you greet them in year 3, 4, or 5. How you introduce that first PE lesson will help them form and cement an attitude that will decide which path they will take. So, for example, I remember teaching a reception and year 1 class once. I had a boy who was really, really distressed at the thought of having to do PE. He really didn't want to do it. I don't know what had happened before, but he just didn't want to engage with the physical activities. When he saw a football or a basketball or any shape of ball that he could align to a sport, it would make him nervous, sullen, and he would become very disengaged. However, through my knowledge of him, from working in the school regularly, and by working with his class teacher who knew him so well, we were able to change that behaviour, that mindset, purely by reframing how we delivered and introduced him to physical activity and PE. Instead of talking about jumping, he was quite into space and astronauts. So we talked about him being a rocket and taking off. When he was running and being chased by a tagger, he was avoiding a meteor shower. All this time, we were developing his physical fundamentals, but through the holistic development, not purely focusing on those fundamentals. We were trying to give him confidence and access. And then as he progressed, we could allow him to become a captain. And then this allowed him to develop his ability of social interaction, working with others, sharing ideas. So it's just how we frame something sometimes that can give children that first avenue and positive experience of PE.
Thanks, Sharon. So just on this slide now, this is something that inspired me from Simon Sinek and his Circle of Why. And it's something that I've used with a local school to help engage the staff within their school when teaching PE, so that everybody understood why they teach PE. So if I can just draw your attention to the very center of the circle, so the why. So it may be, and again, this is just an example, it's probably going to be different if you were to apply this into your school. But in this school, to inspire our whole school to love moving in their own way. So that was going to be the real purpose of why we teach PE. How are we going to do that? You can see is circled around it. And I'm just going to focus in on understanding the holistic benefits. So it's really important that everybody in school understands that there's more benefits than just the physical benefits in PE. And if we're going to inspire everybody, they're going to have to understand this. Now, in the blue area around the edges, this is kind of the week-to-week stuff that you would probably see in school. So if I can just draw your attention to the circle on the right, needs-led PE CPD for all teaching staff. It may be that whether it's internally or a school gets somebody externally to come in to really talk about and highlight the holistic benefits of PE and upskill the staff to be aware of this and obviously to improve their teaching of PE as a result. On the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see health and well-being opportunities for staff to enjoy moving. This could be a really powerful method of inspiring your staff. So when writing this one down, we spoke about how we could possibly arrange a weekly kind of well-being slot for the staff, whether that's after school and it's a yoga session or a HIIT session, or it might just be a chat about your mental well-being. And again, basing it around physical activities, ideally, to really bring those holistic benefits to life. And then just above that, so bringing school values alive in PE. Again, I alluded to this before, so showing clear examples of how your school values can be brought to life in PE. What does that actually look like? That might be linked to the CPD training for staff in your school. It might be videos or clips that can be made and shared. Again, these are going to equip children for later life. And then in the top left, PE achievements communicated to parents regularly. So in order to inspire our whole school, we've got to think about parents as well. So we might celebrate a child's achievements in PE. This might be a weekly thing. It could be via Twitter, via a newsletter, a conversation. But it might not necessarily just be how far they've thrown something or how fast they've ran. It may be for resilience that they've shown. Again, linking to your school value if you've got one around independent learners. So really celebrating the other things that child has shown. It can be a really powerful tool to highlight in how important PE can be.
Thank you, Tom. So let's do a little poll. And just to remind everyone who is on the webinar, the slides will be, you'll be able to download these in the last 10 minutes of the webinar. They will all be available, and we will remind you about this again. So please, you don't need to ask if we're going to get any resources. But so for the next thing, the poll is, who might be the first person you connect with to help understand the purpose of PE in your school? Who are you going to talk with? Who is going to help you make the most impact? You may only be one teacher, one person, but can you be that ripple effect? Can you be that pebble that changes the mindset, the culture, the embedding of PE at your school? So all the poll results are coming in. And how are we doing with those, Tom?
So from what I'm seeing, yeah, pretty much a dominant answer. So people are 77% of people are feeling that the first person they're going to connect with is the PE coordinator, which is a really good option. Hopefully they're going to have some a real passion and motivation for PE, but also some decision-making responsibilities as well. And then second to that, 17% have said the head teacher. And then thirdly, 6% another teacher, 0% for the governor, interestingly.
Yeah. Remember, we do have some parent governors, so sometimes there's an opportunity to engage and influence when children are being collected from school and from after school club. So it's always, it's always something worth considering.
Brilliant. Well, thank you everybody for participating in that poll. Hopefully that gives you something to think about and an action to take after this webinar, who you're going to speak to. I'm just going to invite now Steve and Ryan in, if that's okay. Guys, have you got any questions that have cropped up that you want to discuss?
Just quickly, just to reiterate what Sharon has just said, the slides will be available, and also the recording will be made available to you all. That's including those that are on it now. If they want to reflect back on it, that will be made available to you. So thank you for them questions. Just one other thing that I've had a few questions sent direct to me around the use of a sports-specific curriculum and what do we think about that. So perhaps being non-sport specific up to the year 2, and then from year 3 turn into sport specific. I just wanted to bring in Ryan on this and just get his opinion and see what he thinks around the philosophy or the idea behind a sport specific curriculum.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and we're in a very fortunate position in the roles that we're in, that we get to visit 3 or 4 different primary schools a week and see the different curriculum maps and curriculum plans from a variety of different sources. I think when planning a curriculum, it's important to think about that bigger picture and that why, and why do we teach PE? Why is it on the school curriculum? And I think one of the main things for me is all about the content in this webinar, which is that to develop them as people and holistically develop them. We can't make every single student that we teach an elite athlete. But what we can do is hopefully make them into the best possible person that they can be. And I think another role of ours when we're teaching PE is to develop that lifelong love of sport. And I think, a sport-specific curriculum can potentially be a barrier to that, because if you say, for example, we're going to do football for the next 6 weeks, that might disengage half the class straight away, who might not have that love and that interest of football. And Instead, if we look at the national curriculum, which Tom looked at earlier, if instead we're focusing on the fundamental movement skills, so for example, coordination and agility, and for some students in the class at whatever age, whether it's Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2, that's going to look very different. So for some in a class, it might be a case of just using agility skills to get past a defender. Some might be able and have the coordination skills to be able to do that while holding a ball, a rugby ball or a netball. Some might be able to do it as being a basketballer and dribbling around a defender. Some might be able to do it as a footballer. And it allows for that differentiation, not being sport specific. You can actually then hopefully meet the needs and wants of more students, and if not all in the class. And then also by focusing on those attacking and defending skills from the national curriculum, we're then hopefully embedding some of the principles which they can take forward in any invasion game. So hopefully with those fundamental movement skills, plus the attacking and defending principles that they're picking up, then hopefully we're giving them the toolkit, which it means that they can actually play any sport that they want to play by the end of their primary school career. And then if we add in that holistic development of being that good person and a good role model and a leader, a good teammate, then again, that adds to that toolkit of being able to play whatever they want.
Yeah, so go on,
if you don't mind, Steve, I've just a couple of things that have come in around using play in PE and PE influencing what the students might do at break time, at lunchtime, and beyond the school day as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's around as teachers and anyone working with children in school, we need to create activities and games that children can easily replicate, games that they go out into the playground and say, I want to play the Lion Guard game, or I want to play Knights and Castles that we did in PE, and that they can set it up themselves, they can play it themselves, that they can go home, tell the parents about it, play it there. We need them to be inspired by our PE lessons to want to continue it for life, essentially, and any opportunity that they get. So play is massive. The main thing around it being at lunchtime, being unstructured, being informal, not led by an adult, giving the opportunity to be creative, to adapt the things they've learned in the PE lessons. That's absolutely huge. And any early years teachers on here will tell you that it forms a massive part of the curriculum anyway, in the Development Matters curriculum, if you want to call it that. It's a huge part, and for some reason in this country, we have a massive decline as you go through school. So by the time you get in year 6, you aren't doing too much learning through play. That's not to be said in every school, but generally there's other pressures put on us from the schools, from senior leadership, and obviously Ofsted government to get certain things in that we're going to be judged on. And that lack of play as we go through school can be detrimental, because we know through research and academia that a lot of children learn really well through play. So can we deliver literacy in an active way? Can we deliver numeracy in a more active way to get children generally on the move a lot more than what they are? And so the play element is absolutely huge, I think, in the development in child development and the physical literacy especially.
I think that links in with a couple of other questions that we've had as well. I've certainly seen one from Daniel and one from Mandy around using themes and hooks within PE lessons as well. And I think that adds that element of play and fantasy, and that's something that we're going to touch on in a lot more detail in next week's session around engaging pupils in PE as well. So worth tuning in next week to do for some follow-up work on that as well.
Cheers, Ryan.
Stuff.
Right, guys. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't know if we've lost Sharon there. Thank you to Ryan and Steve for just discussing those questions. Please keep engaging in the chat box and posing questions. We're gonna try and get Steve and Ryan in a little bit later just to discuss further questions. So we're going to move on to the holistic benefits now, and start to explore how PE is more than just the physical. So in the Q&A section, there'll be a question. In this picture, what is being developed here beyond the physical? And before you start to think about this, I just want to give you some context. So this was a filming day we did in a school up in the northwest, I believe it was.
Yep, that's right.
Sharon, you've got a bit more info. Go on, you can.
Yeah, sorry about that. I lost internet. Sorry, everyone. Yes, so this is a primary school in the northern England. They've literally just prior to this lesson started, I'm sure you can all empathize with the PE teacher. They had to clear up the dining tables, make sure all the mushy peas and chips had been removed. And I think you most probably can see in the background there's a bit of a health and safety aspect where you've got to be aware of the piano you've got to avoid. It's like an extra defender. And and we met when we were doing these pictures with this PE group. We met them on this day, so we had to really connect with them, the teacher who was delivering this lesson. And what I want you to do now is try and think beyond the physical. And I can see that the chat box is being littered with wonderful statements showing that you really do recognise what the holistic development is and how you are all definitely great teachers at work. And I can see there. So what are the skills that we've tried to develop here? What can you see from the picture, from the children's faces? Yes, confidence and self-belief. That girl looks really confident, and that boy definitely is being brave as he's trying to get into space.
I've just seen one, Sharon, I really liked, which I haven't seen. Yeah. I didn't think about actually. So the feel-good factor. And I think that is something you can evidently see in that picture. There is a good environment, I think you could see from that picture, and hopefully it's going to provide a positive experience. I saw a nice one as well with leadership. Obviously, there's some kind of team game going on, so hopefully there's going to be a bit of leadership in there.
I like the decision making as well, and the confidence. Aaron, that was brilliant. Maisie again, confidence and fun and enjoyment. Yes, learning should be fun. It can be a struggle, but it still has to be fun. We have to enjoy that struggle.
Oof, that was a good one. Improvisation, absolutely. Problem solving on the spot. So hopefully, whichever game they're playing there, I'm not actually sure which one it is, but there's lots of problems being solved that they're having to deal with live and in the moment. And it doesn't look too structured to me, which I like the look of.
Yeah, and can you see a teacher? Have a look at that picture. Is there a teacher orchestrating that? Or is everybody getting on with their games in their small-sided teams that they're playing in? Yes, they are all engaged, aren't they? Even the one who's thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure which decision to act upon at the back there. But, that's fine. That's fine. And this is why we believe the holistic development is so important. They're developing their physical skills there, but there's so much more attached to that if the teacher delivers and teaches in the right way. So, what is meant by the term holistic development? Well, I think you've all just told me. In fact, there's been such a multitude of awareness and good comments. I feel very lucky for our children who are going to have you delivering to them in the future. So how can we make sure that you're confident in bringing this holistic development yourselves out through PE? The FA has the 4 corner models, and this looks at developing the technical, the physical, the psychological, and the social aspects. And if we can look at all these together in unison, whilst we're teaching a PE lesson, then we can ensure that the holistic development is taking place. We are not sport focused, we are child focused. We have to be. As teachers, we all know that children have many strengths and areas they can develop, and it is vital we meet the needs of the student and not just teach the sport. Just because one year, your Year 4 group are capable of progressing onto some advanced, maybe sport-specific skills, doesn't mean every year, Year 4 are going to be able to do that. We must ensure that we are teaching the fundamentals for them to be able to choose and decide and then master the things they want to master the activities in. Anyone recognize this? You saw it a couple of slides earlier. Didn't expect anyone to be able to read it because it was quite small. It's the national curriculum for Key Stage 1 PE. And the thing that we're going to talk about now is how can we bring the national curriculum alive, ready to learn for children at Key Stage 1 PE through applying this holistic approach. Some people may say that 2.5 pages is boring, it doesn't give us any guidance. I think no. Opportunity. There's no barriers. Think of your creativity, your primary school teachers. You're the best at storytelling. You're the best at making things come alive. And you can do this in PE. And Tom's going to explain how we do this in alignment with the 4 corners and holistic development.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, again, it's really good just to see these comments flying in, some really good points being made. So like Sharon's just said, I'm just going to focus in on one of the bullet points. So you'll see at the top, pupils should be taught to participate in team games, developing simple tactics for defending. So this comes from the Key Stage 1 section. As you'll see on the slide, there's various skills that they might need to do in order to focus on the snippet from the curriculum above. Now, it's not all there. These are just some examples. So in the social corner, listening. If they're trying to defend something, whether it's a goal or points or whatever it is, they're going to have to be able to listen to each other and possibly take turns to talk. Again, psychological corner up there, developing resilient learners, not giving up. Sometimes they might not get, say, a ball for a while. They're going to have to learn how to be controlled and wait for that perfect timing. Now, the skills displayed on the slide across the 4 corners, these could be explored across a whole term. So this isn't just for one lesson. And these could be explored using various modified games where there's lots of points to earn, but also points to protect, especially if we're defending. They could be by themselves. They could be in teams. The teams could be of 4 players. It could be just of 2. But they've got lots of time, so they've got a good term to explore these skills. And when I say skills, I don't just mean the technical stuff. I mean everything you see on there. So on this next slide, you will see questions in the 4 corners. So now we can start just to explore how to bring the 4 corners alive. These questions could be asked throughout a lesson. So, for example, if it's more of a social aspect that you're trying to drill down on in a lesson, it might be that you ask them, how have you been an excellent teammate today? Tell your friend, how have you been excellent? Or how are you going to be an excellent teammate? If it's maybe more psychological, how did you feel when trying to stop an attack? And why did you feel that way? Why was it that you had to be patient? What was it you had to do? And how did you manage that? I think these are really important questions that we need to ask for them to cognitively explore. The other thing I'd like to add to this is the timing of the question in your lessons is really, really, really important. So these questions could be dropped in throughout the lesson. So it might be, for example, that you're playing a game, a modified game. It may last for 5 minutes. You might then give them a minute's break. And in that break, they got a chance to grab a drink, and maybe in the drinks area is a whiteboard. And on the whiteboard is your question. They can have a look at it, read it, and discuss it. It might be that you pose the question actually before the game, and you say, I want you to think about this question. I want you to then go and apply it in the next game, and we'll have a chat about it after and discuss it. Really just encouraging them to explore those different corners within your lesson. And it's really important that these questions are not just asked at the end. I'll be honest, I know I've done this in the past where I've just asked the question at the end. They've discussed, they've come up with some really good stuff, which has informed me a lot of what they know. And then they don't get to apply that until the next lesson. This lesson could be in a few days, it could be next week. And as we all know, a lot of stuff can happen between that time. I've just caught in the chat there as well. Yeah, stuff like 2 stars and a wish. If your schools use strategies like that, I would recommend being consistent and really inputting that into your PE lessons. So in a moment, you're going to watch a video. The video is a couple of minutes long and refers actually to the day we spoke about earlier up in the north. Please consider this question whilst watching it. So write something down that you notice about the teacher's pedagogy and the children's engagement. Hopefully the video will work.
Yep, it's on its way.
Thank you.
Holistic child development in primary PE.
The purpose of PE is to contribute to the holistic development of the child.
Good morning, children. How are we? We're going to do some fun PE this morning.
Nice. Oh. Holistic development is important in PE because we don't just want to develop children's physical skills, but also the subject is really important for developing children's social skills, how they might communicate with each other, and also how they might solve problems within games. What are you doing right now, which is really, really nice? Discussing it, but how are you discussing it? Is everybody talking at the same time? So quiet voices, letting people talk, brilliant.
It might be that we're looking to work the children physically, so we have a bit more of a focus in that area, so we can pull out different aspects in the sessions that we're delivering.
So we've got 2 pieces of equipment going at the same time. Really like that, well done. Let's see it in action.
We introduced equipment into arm tennis to increase the level of difficulty, so we went from a football to a tennis ball to refine the motor skills that children were learning.
I'm going to challenge you, can you play with a tennis ball instead of the football? Okay, there you go. Thank you very much.
The 4-corner model is the FA's approach to developing the whole child. The 4-corner model consists of a technical and tactical corner, a physical corner, a social corner, and a psychological corner.
We have the 4 separate corners to ensure that when we're delivering sessions that we are thinking about all the different areas that are important for holistic development of children. It's one of those lessons that we can really bring out the teamwork aspect, the communication skills that other lessons in school don't have the opportunity to do.
Learning in PE should be planned. A good way to consider this is to create a medium-term plan for each term or half-term of PE lessons. Here is an example of what a simple Key Stage 2 medium-term plan could look like. In this term, the plan has 4 central aims: a technical and physical focus around defending, and a psychosocial focus on working together to evaluate success. All of these areas are chosen from the PE national curriculum. The needs of the pupils will determine how much time and focus there will be in each corner. This kind of medium-term plan helps ensure holistic development happens and helps teachers to plan lessons that link together and build and embed key skills.
Brilliant. Thank you for watching that video. I can see from the chat box we're already firing in lots of things that we noticed, which is brilliant. If you can make sure you've done that. Sharon, have you noticed anything?
Yeah, it's really good actually. It was really good to see how you noticed that Ben was really calm, and how he used his voice to nurture and encourage and sort of set that tone so children don't feel afraid if they're going to make a mistake. The fact that it was fun. I like how Deborah was saying about being, and Michelle saying taking turns and communicating, and it wasn't being structured by the teacher. What did you see, Tom, that you liked?
Yeah, there's a couple of key themes really, linking into some of yours. So a lot of child-led discussion around whatever the question was. There was a buzz, so hopefully you could feel that through the video, which is brilliant. Links massively to that positive environment. And then also the last one I saw was around positive reinforcement.
Yeah. And also, I think it was Helen who said, children were all responsible for their learning. They were taking ownership. They were leading the discussions, and it was just that careful sort of deeper questioning that Ben was giving them through his observations. So he wasn't going around telling them; he was observing and then asking them questions, so that they actually got time to have a deeper level of thinking and learning as a result.
Excellent. So I'm just aware we've got about 8 minutes left, but Steve and Ryan, was there any questions that you wanted to pick up on at this stage?
There was one. There's a bit of a recurring theme and a bit of discussion going on around mixed ability PE, and some people suggesting could we split classes on ability and the pros and cons of that. So I'm not sure if is Ryan still on. Yeah, sorry, Ryan. I was going to flip that to you again. He's a little bit on what we talked about already, but it's definitely a common theme around should we be splitting groups based on ability, and if not, why?
I think the first thing to say on that is probably that, are we sometimes guilty of seeing the fact that we've got different abilities in a class of 30, which we're going to in every single class in every school in the country? Are we sometimes guilty of seeing that as a big negative, when actually, I think it can be a massive positive? I think firstly, particularly thinking about today's theme of that holistic development, and it gives students the opportunity to develop maybe skills that they don't otherwise get to develop in different other areas of the curriculum. So it might be those students of a higher ability take on those leadership roles, and it might give that student who doesn't necessarily get a chance to shine or as much chance to shine in the classroom that chance to show some leadership qualities, because it might be that they've got some experience in playing different types of sports. And that can also be a positive to shine a light on them of being centre stage when, in the classroom that might not necessarily be the case. And I think another thing to bear in mind with different abilities in the same class, and I know I've certainly been very guilty of it in the past, is allocating teams for teachers, allocating teams for students in game situations. And it might be that you put the first three best as the captains, then the next, and so on and so on. And then maybe a problem with that is the fact that you're then going to end up, maybe if you've got three small-sided games going on, let's say of 4 a side each, that you might end up with 1 or 2 in each of the games who aren't touching the ball or aren't being involved, whatever the game might be that you're playing. I think this links back to what we were talking about before, about the non-sport specific curriculums. And if you were solely focusing on football, for example, and you had 3 football games going on, and again, it might disengage some students. Whereas if instead we were focusing on developing attacking and defending skills, it might be that you have split, you've got a netball court, for example, painted out on your playground. You have 3 4v4 games going on, and one's a netball type game, one might be a basketball type game, and the third one might be a football game, because the 8 in that game can handle having the ball on the floor and working on those attacking defending principles through that. Whereas in the netball game, it might be a little bit more that, they don't have maybe as many throwing and catching skills or the coordination skills, agility skills to be able to play a football game, but they can play a throwing and catching game. So I think it's not necessarily seeing it as a negative, but actually using it as a positive to develop students in different ways and using the curriculum to help us do that. Great. Just quickly as well, Steve, while on the question and answers, I've noticed in the chat box there's been a lot of questions, comments around the PE training that primary education students and PGE students get at universities and on skits, and obviously that's something that we're heavily passionate about and involved with in our roles. Anything from your side in terms of commenting on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was sparked by a comment that was around should it just be teachers who teach PE, or could it be coaches and the trade-offs for the both? And I just raised the point around is the level of training people get on their PGCE or skits sufficient enough to make someone competent in delivering PE? If you're from a sporty background or PE is a passion of yours, that training may just give you a few ideas coupled with obviously generic teacher training. But if you have had a negative experience with PE or your subject knowledge around sports and coaching is minimal, I don't think 3 to 6 hours on a PGCE is going to be enough. So it's where you get that extra knowledge from and that extra expertise from. So by having a coach in with you or someone around from a more PE background, not necessarily qualified as a teacher, you can use each other's skills. So that reaffirm some messages to teachers that they can bring out the strategies you're using in the classroom into PE, and then just tapping into the expertise sport-wise of the coach. And obviously, quite a few people put on their skits. They've done the Primary Teachers Award that we offer, and that formed part of their PE training, which is good to hear. And then other people have said how they've done it. They've had a year within their course where they could specialise in a subject and chose PE, which is absolutely brilliant to hear. But we also know just from working with pretty much, I think it's 66 universities we work with now, that some universities, their PE training is just our 6-hour Primary Teachers Award. And as good as it is that sufficient enough to really make someone competent to deliver PE? So that's an issue that's probably ranges from uni to uni, and I would imagine amongst this group of people on here, they've had absolutely huge range of experiences in terms of what training they've had with regards to PE, which has obviously influenced where they are now.
And hopefully, to add to that, hopefully, these sessions over the coming weeks will hopefully plug some of those gaps that maybe teachers missed out on in terms of their training regarding PE.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you, everybody, for fully engaging with this topic. So I will now hand you over to Tom.
So you should be able to see a quote on your screen. Any moment now, there will be a poll that will spring up onto your screen. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if only one remembers to turn on the light. Who said this? Let's see who we're going for. Right, they're flying in. Again, I thought this was going to be a tough one, but the results, I'm not so sure. We've been found out again.
It looks like we're not the only fans, Tom.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you for your responses. I think most have responded now, so that's fantastic. Yeah, so most of you, I think 77% now we're up to are correct. Albus Dumbledore said this. I am a big Harry Potter fan, and I did have to somehow squeeze a link in, which I've done. However, there is a real purpose behind it. I just wanted to share this slide with you and just relate it to our current situation and maybe to what PE could be going forward. So let's turn on the light. You will have seen an absolute array, an eruption of physical challenges happening on social media. 5K challenges, keep you uppies, HIIT workouts, and absolutely loads of stuff. And I think the really good thing about this is suddenly our physical and our mental well-being seems to be much higher on the agenda. And I think this is a real good opportunity for people in our roles to harness this and really start to push PE when we get back into school.
So, what will our children need in our new normal when we go back? Let's go back to this four-corner model that we're trying to help you to have a process using the four-corner model to develop children's holistic development. So, technically, what are they going to need? Well, they may have not had a garden for the last couple of months and only been able to go out maybe once a day, depending which country they're in. So throw in for distance, throw in for height. These may be some things we might need to give them the opportunity to do more of. And maybe, initially do it just individually. So will you need a little bit more equipment for that? But with regards to not just being the physical things we need to focus on, what about social? Who have they had to negotiate with? If they're lucky enough, maybe a brother and sister, sibling. But what if they were predominantly on their own? What if there hasn't been any negotiation? What if they're in an environment where it's very one way, where they're told what to do? What if their ideas haven't really been listened to for the last couple of months? How are you going to structure your transitional curriculum when they return and when you return? Psychologically, they may not have the confidence of being in large groups. They haven't been in a large group for a long time. And this will be different for different children. Some children will look forward to being back amongst the big group, but for some children, it'll be the most daunting, frightening experience. They're likely, they won't be looking forward to it at all. You may even have some refusers. So let's try and think about how can we make the PE curriculum when they come back as a major way of helping children adapt again to their return to the new normal, the new environment. And how can we do it using this holistic model that we've shared with you today that is also aligned to the national curriculum for PE at Key Stage 1 and 2.
Okay, so we're just going to start to round off the webinar now, and there's a couple of questions that we don't want you to answer now, but we would like you to record and just spend some time thinking about afterwards. So the first one, what will your PE lessons look like in the new normal?
And how will you develop the children you teach holistically, and with particular reference to PE, obviously? How are you going to do that? What are you going to do differently?
And how will your PE lessons help them to become those happy, healthy people of the future? I think PE plays a real key role in this. And if by placing PE at the heart of your school, you can really equip the pupils for later life by sharpening their skills across all four corners and at the same time embedding your school values. I think that plays a really key role in doing this.
So just to remind you, as we come to the end, there are a series of webinars. The next one is next Thursday on the 7th of May, 4 till 5, and it will be with Ryan Davis and Paul Quinn, and they will be talking you through how to engage pupils in PE with lots of different strategies they've used and seen being used. Then on Thursday, the 14th of May, the following week, there'll be one about team teaching in PE. So if you do have a TA working with you or a coach, how can you work effectively as a pair to deliver high quality PE? I mean, everybody knows the saying, 2 heads are better than one. So let's make sure that we use those 2 heads to maximize the learning potential for all those children in your class. And then the final webinar will be reconnecting through PE, and that will be on the 21st of May. So you can sign up for these webinars now. You don't have to wait until the dates, and then a link will be sent to you on the nearer the date to remind you to register and sign in.
Last two slides now. So you will see some links on this slide, and these are just useful resources for you to be aware of. The link at the top of the slide will take you to our FA learning website, and on here you can click the region that you're in, and it will give you a contact from the PE unit. Feel free to email this person to find out when upcoming FA Primary Teachers Awards are running. Obviously, this will be when we get back to normal. This is a free one-day course. There's also some websites there, which I'm not going to go through, but there's lots of free stuff that you can download off there. It's also useful for you to know that if you click on the handout tab, you can get today's slides, but also you can get a certificate for attending this webinar, which you can download and print off. Finally, I'd just like to say thank you for taking part in the webinar. Apologies, it's just gone over the hour mark, but hopefully you can sense the passion, not only from us, but the comment box. But thank you for your time. I hope it's been informative. I hope it's left you with things to consider beyond the physical. Please find our emails at the bottom. If you've got any more questions, our FAP unit Twitter handle is right in the center of the slide. And the last thing I need to say is thank you and stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, everyone. It's been a real pleasure engaging with you today. And thank you for writing such fruitful and great comments in the chat box, which really does make this a great session to be part of.
Yep,
thank you, Steve, and thank you, Ian.
Well, thank you, guys. Thanks for that.